So we've got the one box, and I figure I might as well open it up before I get to the other stuff. To get the box out of the way. It's nice and quick. And now the other stuff is non-anime stuff. So if y'all remember from last week, I did get Star Trek: The Next Generation seasons 1 and 6. Here's 2, 3, 4, 5. This one with a slipcover, and 7. If I take that and combine it with seasons 1 and 6, then hey, it's a Star Trek: The Next Generation complete series. Then I also received a Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2, Pulp Fiction, and Reservoir Dogs. Now, that's all my non-anime stuff. Let's add these here. I guess we're gonna very quickly cover this. It is a new hentai that came out. A lot of the stuff that's been coming out has been re-releases, most of which I have. Back is probably more questionable, so we'll set that aside. And let's begin with Denki-Gai Volume 2. Now, I'm guessing the reason this came out well before Yukina as a Hero Volume 2 probably has to do with that one being dubbed. I'm going to do the probably lazy way of handling this. And if I wasn't careful, that was actually a fairly dangerous way of doing it. Well, not too dangerous. And if you hear that rumbling in the background, it's thunder. Shouldn't be a problem for this update, other than noises. Oh well, I was thinking of going to get the other one, but it should be fine. As you can see, let's see, I see region 1 for that. I don't see any region information for Blu-ray. 5 episodes, and eventually I will remember how this thing gets opened. So I think it's right here. Just use the fingernail to separate the plastic. Voila. We're inside. So this is what the back of the box 2 looks like. On the inside, we've got 2 discs and a third deck. I guess it says Dunk Songs 2, which I assume is more character themes, possibly. This is the back of it. That's right. Did they have these bigger cardboard cutout things in the first volume? I think. Kind of like postcards, but a lot bigger. This looks like a poster version of what's on the front. It is. And on the back, looks like a poster version of what's on the back of the Blu-ray. Nice and big and clean in case you want it on your walls. See, I think that was probably there like that. Then we had a booklet. Well, there we go. That's a Denki-Gai box 2. There we go. Except, of course, we've got this as well. You may recall Volume 1 came with one of these as well. So this is here a little late. I mean, I didn't pre-order it from Anime Souls or anything like that, so I was waiting for it to show up on Right Stuff. This should be the second half of Blackjack TV. pretty straightforward. Obviously on the top here is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal Season 1, and I kept thinking this was a T for some reason. No. Now, I do believe Volume 1 on its own got released, but my guess was that this was probably had more content than that, and this would probably be what I would want to get, especially if they're doing the artwork on the side thing like that. Get set to get decked. So we've got Volume 1, and this may be just a copy of what I already have, I don't know. Here we've got Season 1, Volume 2. And then Season 1, Volume 3. Pretty cool. Next up, we've got The World God Only Knows OVA collection. These OVAs take place in between the second and third season, I believe. And once again, a Sentai Blu-ray with the keep this Blu-ray shut. With the tab lock thing activated. And despite the fact that I made a hole in the side with the fingernail, I guess it just came apart a different way. Oh well. Let's just... Wow, that's a pretty intense storm out there. So let's see. Obviously it's dubbed, that's in line with everything else. The Blu-ray is region A only. They both feel like they only have one disc in them. Which is the case. Looks like the same disc art. Very straightforward. Probably pretty high priority. Next up we've got Patlabor the movie on Blu-ray. It also came out on DVD, but I already have it on DVD. Oh, damn it. Made in Japan. So it doesn't actually say anywhere on here that Sentai released it, but I do believe that it's they're both offshoots from ADV, I guess. Why can't I grab this damn plastic? There we are. They're pretty straightforward disc, which is pretty good because getting this movie on Blu-ray is actually quite nice. This might be a good opportunity to rewatch it since I have enjoyed it. And then once I do that, I might rewatch Patlabor 2, which I can't remember. Next up is Yakitate Japan Part 2. Obviously, this will be Japanese with English subtitles only. English subtitle, Japanese. 625 minutes means, I think, 25 episodes. You can see this plastic is barely on. So, I guess we're going to find out whether or not that means trouble. Hopefully not. Because as long as the discs are fine, I mean, who cares, right? With the characters looking so stylish, this almost seems more like Bleach. 5 discs. Well, that looks like everything. It's this week's anime DVD collection update. So, it's not been a very anime watching week. There's a couple reasons for that that I'll get into later. But I did watch 8 episodes of World Conquest Svedda plot. Anyways, I'm 8 episodes in, which Makes me think I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and it's been pretty enjoyable. I haven't seen anything about it that's super spectacular per se, but it is kind of refreshing. Last time, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I speculated about it maybe being reminding me sort of Excel Saga, and I guess I wasn't too wrong premise-wise, but execution-wise, it's obviously not going to be anything like that, since Excel Saga, well, it doesn't look like it would work with that cast of characters. Instead, if I were to compare this to anything feel-wise, it would actually be Dokoida, which I'm not sure if a lot of people have actually watched that, but the basic premise of that series is you have two companies making powered suits. They want to be sponsored so that the space police use their suit. And so what they do is they get financed by a TV station who finds Earthlings to sample each of the suits, and then they bring some of the galaxy's worst criminals there on the planet. Now, a lot of that stuff has absolutely nothing with World Conquest, but the similarity kind of comes into the thing that made Dokoida fun, which is all the characters, good guys and bad guys, they all live at the same apartment complex, and they're pretty much aware that all the other people are secretly the person they're really fighting, but because of the amount of money involved, they just choose to conveniently ignore it and be very neighborly, which works. It's real fun in Dokoida from the point of view, or from the feeling it gives of being both serious but not serious. Like, these serious personas are something that these characters put on non-seriously so that they can week to week, have a little rumble or whatnot, and it's a kind of interesting juxtaposition of the concepts, I guess. The serious and non-serious kind of mixed into one. And World Conquest is kind of similar in that regard. Like, it feels like the premise is purposeless and meaningless, while at the same time taken seriously, and it's amusing. Now, I'm not quite sure where it's going to be going from what has been happening lately in the anime. It does leave me a bit wondering. But it's been entertaining so far. So as y'all can probably guess, the reason I didn't watch a lot of anime, the first and probably most notable reason would be those Star Trek The Next Generation DVDs I got. I even mentioned that it was something I wanted to rewatch, just because most of these episodes I hadn't seen since they aired. I think there's a lot of these first season ones that I saw in reruns or something, but it's still been over 15 years. Half my life has passed since Star Trek The Next Generation ended, I think. I haven't looked at the exact dates, but I'm pretty sure it ended in the 90s. And as for what I think about it, well, I think part of the issue is that while initially it's kind of eye-rolling, obviously a bit more campy, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be one of those things where sometimes you see campy and you think, why am I not watching anime? I really have oh my god, there's so many Blu-rays over there I'm supposed to watch. Oof. And of course I've got more adding onto the pile every day, but part of it is it wasn't unwatchable campy. I mean, it was actually more Star Trek the original series campy. Just the way people dressed and the kind of problems they ran into. It was very reminiscent of Star Trek the original series. And I think if Star Trek The Next Generation had remained that way, it would have been okay, but probably not as much of a contender for people's favorite captain in the Captain Wars, because it grew kind of quickly. It's a bit like Stargate SG-1 in that way, but I'll have to watch more of The Next Generation to understand if it grows as much as SG-1, which I somehow doubt it, because SG-1 is nice because you can feel everything in the series building up. It's like little things from previous episodes or a single standalone episode from before has consequences through many episodes after that are sometimes big, sometimes small. I've described it to my friend as it's fun. It's a fun series to watch because you kind of watch humanity develop as well as just the great writing and acting that happened from episode to episode once the series gets into its rhythm. And Star Trek The Next Generation, I think, could have the former, but it's not going to have this growth of humanity sort of thing. And part of that is because Star Trek Next Generation begins from the perspective of humanity is perfect. And that's an interesting thing to talk about because it feels a little over the top in the beginning. As in, humans have gotten beyond all that stuff. We are better than we were in the 20th century. And I think probably the best example of that is probably the most I can't remember the word. The character a lot of people like to hate, and that's Wesley Crusher, and I'm not sure if I would call Wesley Crusher a Mary Sue character per se. I know I've heard that argument before, but I can say that my first impression is that they try to start off on the foot of being a super more advanced as a series, and Wesley Crusher is just I think one example where they kind of went overboard with that, and I think that's really what happened. And I think they even realized it because they've toned a lot of that down already, and I'm not even finished with the first season yet. And I noticed that, and now I know why I never felt all that much hate for Wesley Crusher, because I didn't really see all those early episodes in a row. I think I even mentioned last time that I had probably never seen the first episode, Encounter at Waypoint. That's the first 2 episodes, actually. And a lot of that really, really, really early stuff is Captain Picard, my son is in the elevator and he wants to see the bridge even though you're not supposed to let that. I expect you to bend the rules to let him do that. And that's kind of the feeling it gave. And it got around that when it started making him an acting ensign and didn't make it about how he's the best person in the universe or something like that. And so it's interesting watching it and just kind of understanding as much of that as I do. Now, I'd be interested to see what arguments people have made about him being a Mary Sue character, but as it is, I'm already wasting enough, not really wasting, I'm really spending enough time on Star Trek The Next Generation because I'm not done. I keep going back and forth between Star Trek and anime because the episodes are very watchable at this point. Like I said, I'm not past the first season, but I'm definitely nearer the second half of it. Anyways, the other reason I obviously didn't watch anime this week would be Age of Ultron, the second Avengers movie in particular, in case anybody doesn't know what I mean. And what can I say about the movie? Well, that's obviously not too spoilerific. I thought it was pretty good. I wouldn't call it Guardians of the Galaxy good. And I actually think Captain America Winter Soldier was maybe better, but... Oh, and of course the first Avengers movie I thought was better, but it wasn't bad per se. And when I mean by per se, it means I can think of something... I watched it and I did feel like the main plot didn't engross me as much. Like, they did a really good job of introducing the villain and the build-up to that, and the way my friend put it, by the end of the movie, it felt a bit more generic villainy. You can probably remember this from older Marvel Universe movies. I think Iron Man's probably a really good example, probably Incredible Hulk, where a lot of Iron Man is just spectacular, and then when it gets to the battle between Iron Man and Titanium Man or something, I don't know, sometimes you feel like this series is not as enjoyable as all that other stuff that happened before then. And I don't think it's because he's evenly matched, but I think it's because it shifted into this CGI things, fighting things, because the Incredible Hulk kind of felt sort of similar. Like, it was build up to that moment, and the build up was great, and that moment was okay. And maybe for Age of Ultron, that build up to okay was maybe more. The okay part was maybe more stretched out, but there's interesting and fun things still interleaved in there. It was a very entertaining movie. I thought it was a good build up to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It definitely left me reevaluating some aspects of it and trying to say, wait, is that true? Is that true? And I hope I didn't spoil it too much by saying this stuff, because there's a lot of easily spoilerific things that y'all have probably already been spoiled to if you haven't gone to watch it yet. So, beyond that, obviously last week I mentioned probably padding this month's anime. I didn't do it this week, partially because of laziness and partially because, well, I guess actually this week's anime also shipped a day earlier than I expected, because it went from an Amazon facility to an Amazon facility and then here. So 3 days instead of 2 days. It was weird. And then the other is that I had a gigantic pile of Star Trek DVDs. I'm like, big enough already. And so I'll probably be taking a look at next week, and I'll probably pre-order stuff. Mostly I'm looking at catching up on anime Blu-rays that I haven't gotten, because it makes it really annoying to sort by certain years when it's like, oh, this is the year where I still wasn't buying anime on Blu-ray, and so there's a lot of things here that are easy to pick up, and I really should. So that's what you can have in mind. Probably not hentai, even though my hentai collection is still far. It's nowhere near as complete as the anime stuff in general is. So, oh well. I think that about covers everything. So I'll go ahead and end this video before power goes out, and y'all have a nice week.